Hello. Today I'd like to talk about a movie called Send Help, which was directed by Sam Raimi. It stars Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. This movie is a horror comedy about a coworker who ends up stranded on a tropical island with her terrible new boss. Now, this movie, from the premise alone, just sounds like a really fun time. I think a lot of people can relate to not liking one of, or perhaps all, of their superiors at work. I know in the past I've had my struggles with some of that crap. And to see this concept put to film with such care and also self awareness for the sheer ridiculousness of it, it's just really fun and refreshing to see. Again, this is another movie I enjoyed watching, and it's a movie I've seen in theaters one time pretty recently. I think I saw this a few days after I saw Iron Lung, so I saw it at the beginning of February, so just a little under a month ago by now. And it's still pretty fresh in my mind. There are a lot of memorable scenes in this movie. One thing that at first I wasn't sure how to feel about with this movie, but eventually I came around to really enjoying it, is this movie isn't the most gory movie per se, but there is a scene involving a creature that is really gross, just utterly disgusting, but so much so that it's just really funny. It's so stupid and over the top, and I just love it when this movie decides to just go all in on this kind of material. I actually went to see this movie with my parents, and they both absolutely loved this movie, which I also think helped the experience for me because I loved sharing this experience with them. It was a great time all around. Everyone in the theater seemed like they were having a great time, so yeah, win-win. And the comedy horror of this movie, it's mostly a comedy than it is a horror movie, although there are some darkly comedic moments, especially getting closer and closer towards the end of the movie as things start to ramp up. Throughout the movie, there's just this sense of, there's like this sinister vibe to this movie. And I think that sinister vibe is just constantly expanded upon as the movie progresses. At the beginning, things are fairly innocent. There's still a lot of funny things going on, especially that interaction with Dylan O'Brien's character with Rachel McAdams' character the first time they meet, where it's the close up of his eye looking at the food that's on her. I think it's her face, or maybe it was her hand, and it's just it was a really that I really like that shot. That was really funny, especially the performances there from Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams. The performances in this movie from everybody are really good. There isn't a character I feel that is wasted here. Most of the movie surrounds just these two characters, so to have both these leads put in this secluded location, it's a lot of work. It's really demanding for both the actors and, of course, the cast and the crew to film in these conditions. And it's just done really well, I think. I don't know how much designing they did with the set. It seems like they literally just found a tropical island, probably, I'm guessing, where they filmed Survivor, which was Fiji, I believe, or at least some of the recent seasons of Survivor, which is also a small plot point in the movie. But it was just a great idea to have this kind of relationship stranded on this location, and for them to take advantage of it as much as they did. Rachel McAdams' character is a survivalist, and I'm not sure, I can't speak to the accuracy of the survivalist stuff that goes on in this movie. I don't know how much of it is actually possible. Some of it does seem a little over the top, but at the same time, it's just really enjoyable to watch as these two characters who are forced to survive together either thrive or fall short in trying to do simple things like find food or shelter, and how a lot of their knowledge on these different things actually impacts the plot and the sort of power balance that we see shift throughout the movie. I don't really consider that a spoiler, considering that in the trailers it pretty much shows that this is kind of a flip of the script when it comes to power dynamics with workers and the bosses and the employees, however you want to put it. Yeah, overall, just the concept was executed really well. The story, too, it's nothing crazy, but it's a basic story, and they hit the nail right on the head, I think. This movie manages to be simple, yet entertaining. Like I said, with great movies that have wonderful concepts, this movie does manage to exploit a lot of that concept. There were some moments here and there where I felt like, okay, we've kind of seen this before, like the plot isn't exactly the most unpredictable as to where the story ends up at the end. I'm going to try to avoid spoilers for this review, But throughout the movie, there are definitely different moments where it's like, ooh, this is definitely new, or like, oh god, where is this leading? There's definitely moments like that, which of course keeps the beating heart of the movie alive and pumping. And again, another great aspect of the movie. I just think that the conclusion, well, definitely I think the conclusion does work for this movie. It's just you may see it coming from a bit far away, or maybe you won't. I don't really know, but this movie, for me at least, I felt had a conclusion that was kind of predictable, but at the same time, they did execute it well. So overall, I'm not really. It's just a nitpick. To be honest, there isn't really a whole lot of this movie that I strongly disliked. I mean, I do think that there were some moments like involving the aforementioned creature, like the CGI is a little rough, I will say. I mean, the point isn't to make it look as realistic as possible. In fact, I think the opposite point is to make it look as ugly as possible. And I think the filmmakers did a great job doing that. I don't know. I feel like maybe it could have been, like, how cool would it have been if it was like a practical, like, puppet, like, doing what it was doing in the movie? But again, a very minor gripe. I honestly struggle to find much wrong with this movie. It's just a matter of like, again, it comes down to personal opinion. That's what this YouTube channel is about. It's just my personal opinion on a lot of these movies that I review. But this movie overall was just a really enjoyable, fun time. I just think that overall it was a fun experience, a fun horror comedy satire that really, for me personally, I guess at the time when I saw this movie, um, I don't want to speak negatively about a lot of my coworkers because, for the most part, all of them were great. But obviously, not everything's perfect in a job environment. And when I had seen this movie, I was just coming out of an employment that was just really not great. It had started off pretty well, but then over the years, things just went downhill. And, trying to get the attention of HR or the higher ups by branch manager was wonderful, but it was just a very frustrating process, and it just got to the point where I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. So now I don't. And to see a situation, well, highly exaggerated in this movie, but to see a situation like this play out on screen, like I said before, I think, especially for other people who have way worse situations or way worse work environments, they're going to find this movie way more relatable, I think, and way more enjoyable. And I think that is really the crux and the heart of the movie. The only things that, like, I'd say that I would kind of take away points for me for this movie is just this movie, like, no, these horror comedies aren't always my thing. I often have the opinion that horror and comedy don't really mesh well together. I think a lot of times they kind of shoot each other in the foot in a way, because a lot of times when you're trying to have a scary movie, the comedy just undercuts that. It just undermines it and can kill a lot of the tension off. Or vice versa, the comedy might not come across as funny and more just awkward, which sometimes that is the intent. But for most cases, or at least some cases, it usually just ends up, again, undermining itself, because it's like you want to be either invested in the horror or in the comedy. I think these are two incredible genres that just unfortunately have not been able to mix well. But fortunately, this movie, that is not the case. This movie, I think it's mostly because this movie more so leans into the horror elements of the story. Excuse me, the comedy elements of the story. It avoids a lot of the horror elements, leans into the comedy elements. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Again, there isn't really much else I could think of to bring this movie down. I guess the climax scene was a little like, again, I'll try to avoid spoilers here, but there is a change that happens that changes up the circumstances slightly. And it kind of just feels like it doesn't really amount to a whole lot. And then there is this climactic sequence between the two characters where they're trying to like talk to each other, and there's something like going on that the filmmakers are kind of trying to hide from you, but if you've seen a movie before, you know what's about to happen. Like, again, kind of going back to how the ending was a little predictable, that's just more into the specifics of it. But anyways, I've been rambling for too much, so I'll stop it there. Put a final score on this movie, I'm going to give it an 81. I think that this movie is great, and I think that I mean, this movie's going to appeal to a lot of people, so I would highly recommend giving this movie a watch. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Comment down below any recommendations you have for anything else you'd like me to review, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.